How many of you guys have like crazy extensive lists of cars that you've had since you were in high school? Some of you probably have way more cars than I've had. I think I have like a pretty relatively moderate amount of cars over the past, how long has it been? Like, oh man, 15 years. What's math again? I'm 33, so you do the math of how long that was ago. I guess maybe 16 years ago, 15, whatever. I'm not going to try. So in this video, I wanted to talk about my car history, the cars I've had since I was 16, I believe. Actually got my license when I was 17, so a little bit of a late bloomer on that side of things. But yeah, technically I had my first car when I was 16 before my license, if I remember that correctly. So yeah, in this video I wanted to talk about the list of cars that I've had since I was a kid, and then kind of lead us up to where we are now. And this will be kind of more of a brief summary of the cars. I don't want to get too deep into them. Some of them do have interesting backstories that I might potentially do separate videos for. I think they kind of deserve that, to kind of really get into the nitty-gritty of what went down with those. But for the most part, this is kind of just a quick rundown of the different cars and vehicles that I've had up until now. So yeah, let's jump right in. Jumping into the list of cars, we're going to start off with the only Honda I've ever had. Sadly, my first car was a 1995 Honda Accord. It was the four-door model with the different type of taillights. They had like a few different models. I forget which one it was. I think it might have been like the LX or something L. I don't really know. I'll throw up a photo of a similar looking Accord. I don't have a photo of the actual car because sadly I didn't have it for that long, and also this was way before social media was really a thing. Like, I think Facebook was the only real thing people had back then. I was like 16, so I didn't really care to post a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I don't really have a photo of it, sadly. It was a fun car to have as a first car because I got to do a lot of projects to it to kind of get some experience and learn about it. And it was really fun to kind of share that with my dad, who's the one that got it for me. Long story short, my dad's a mechanic. He used to work at a collision repair shop, and at that specific shop, someone had left their car there. It was abandoned for like years or whatever, and I guess my dad picked it up because the owner was trying to get rid of it. That's kind of like the gist of the story. So basically my dad picked it up for real cheap. I think it was like $600 that he got it from, something around that. And so one day he showed up with the car and gave it to me as a gift. I don't really think it had a real, like, it wasn't a birthday thing or anything. I don't remember at least. But yeah, that was my first car. Some of the few things that we did to it as like kind of learning cars and how to fix things yourself was, first thing I did was clean the interior. So we gutted the interior, took out the seats, and ripped out the carpet because it had like all crazy types of like stains, like from cigarettes and soda, all that nasty stuff, coffee. And so I actually pulled out the whole carpet, washed it, scrubbed it down, got it looking real nice and clean, put it all back in, wiped down all the seats, and got it looking, as fresh as I could for what it was. I think some other like minor things I did to it was we swapped out the headlights for like projector lights. I think we might have did like a simple radio upgrade, like a head unit, little things like that. I think I even learned how to like install tint on that car. But yeah, really simple, fun stuff to do. I think the biggest thing that I did with my dad was he taught me how to remove the valve cover and apply a new gasket to it. So took off the valve cover, cleaned it from the inside out. I don't think we went too deep into the engine. It was mainly just to kind of like something to do, something to clean, but it was a fun experience and got to learn a lot from that car. Sadly, the car was taken away from circumstances. I think this is the one car that I think needs its own story. But basically, moral of that story is get your cars registered. If you just have them sitting out in your yard, nosy neighbors will most likely complain to like the city, and they'll come swoop your car up if it's not registered. At least that's what happened to me. This was like years ago, so that probably doesn't really apply. This was also in Texas. There's like very specific like local laws are related to that. I'm sure it could have been avoided if we actually tried to fight it, but it is what it is. It's gone now. Who knows where it is? It's probably crushed. But if I feel like making a separate video about that car, I will. Otherwise, yeah, that was my first and only Honda. I would love to have another Honda, probably an EK9 at some point. Or just like a Civic hatch, or honestly I used to like Civic coupes a lot too. But yeah, that's a story for another day, or a car for another day. I don't know, whatever. I'm not getting a Honda right now. So Anyway, let's just jump to the next car because this is kind of an extensive list, so I don't want this to be more than 10 minutes if I can help it. The next one that I'm just gonna like speed run right through is a 2005 Chevy Aveo in silver. It was a 4-door hatch, automatic. The Honda was also automatic, but you know, it is what it is. It's fine. The Chevy Aveo was just a car for my brother and I that my parents got us for high school, just commuter car, nothing crazy. That's basically it. There's not much more to it. We drove it around during high school. It lasted a pretty good time, but it's a Chevy hatchback Aveo. Yeah, whatever. After that, I actually got my first motorcycle, I guess first and only motorcycle, which was a 2011 Suzuki GSX-R 600 in pearl white. That one also had an interesting story. It was a motorcycle, so inevitably I got into an accident with it. Someone hit me out here in LA where I live now. Accord and the Chevy Aveo and the Suzuki are all from Texas because I used to live in Texas. My parents brought the bike out to me after college when I moved out to LA. So the accident happened out here in LA. Drivers are crazier out here. Take that as you will. But yeah, I had the bike for a few years, got into an accident, eventually got it fixed and sold it. So that was it. Maybe down the line I'll get another bike, probably a Honda Rebel or something more casual, like what are those called? Cruiser bike. I do like the bobber styles too, and the cafe racers as well. But you know, maybe later on when I'm feeling it again. But I will say, if you're contemplating getting a motorcycle, I would say do it the right way. Obviously, get your license, be safe about it, wear a helmet. Even if you live in a state that doesn't have helmet laws, like Texas, for example, where I'm from, they didn't have helmet laws, but I would never get on a bike without a helmet. That's crazy to me. Do you if that's what you want to do, but yeah. I had the gloves, jacket, helmet, never got the pants or the boots, but I probably would have done that if I was like all the way into it. But yeah, just be safe if you want to get a bike. But I would recommend, if you're thinking about it, go ahead and do it. It's definitely something that I don't regret. And it's kind of like a bucket list thing that I'm happy that I got to experience. And yeah, it's fun. Can't not have fun on a motorcycle, but just be smart, be safe. Jumping in the next one is a car that I was like super passionate about that I still kind of miss and wish I still had. Funny enough, I've had two of the same car technically. The next one is a 2014 Scion FRS. Whenever that car first came out, I like followed all the news, all the articles, the videos about it. I was like obsessed with the FRS when it first came out, and yeah, I don't regret getting it. It was fun while it lasted. Every car after the Aveo is now manual because that's what I prefer to drive. So every other car is going to be manual now. So the FRS is manual. But yeah, I got that as a lease out of college. Probably not the best decision, but it was fun. I don't regret any of these situations. But yeah, I had a 2014 FRS in white. After that, I turned back the lease because it was a lease. And that's when I got the motorcycle back from there's a situation where like I had the bike, but then the bike was down. Then I got the FRS, and then I got the bike again. So after the bike, technically, I go to a 1997 Mazda Miata. It's my first Miata. It was an M edition in British Racing Green, I think. It was the green and tan option. That one was really cool. It was a NA 1.8. I'll throw up photos and videos of the ones that I do have. So yeah, my first Miata was really fun. I really enjoyed it. That was a in necessity type of moment where I didn't have the motorcycle anymore. I didn't have the FRS, and I just needed something as a daily. So, my brother actually used to have a Miata back in the day, and I think that's what inspired me to get the first Miata that I have, because I already experienced it for a little bit, and I really was into it. So yeah, I jumped into my first Miata, and from there, if you remember from the first video I mentioned that I sold my Miata to get the next car, which is a 1972 Datsun 240Z. That was like a really spur of the moment situation, which, if I could have done it a different way, I probably would have, and I definitely should have, if I should say. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and I don't regret the overall experience. I think it was really fun to do that and have that happen. And I actually went out to Arizona to pick up the Datsun from previous owner, and my buddy Marlon at the time helped me. Like, we literally flew out the morning of, picked up a U-Haul trailer, drove to the lady's house, picked it up on the spot, and then drove like 7 hours back to LA from Arizona, which was like pretty wild. I've never done that before, and it was kind of risky because like I hadn't seen the car in person, obviously. So, but it all worked out, and it was a relatively seamless experience, and nothing necessarily wrong happened with it. Obviously, it was good to have the trailer, so there's no way I would drive that back to LA from Arizona. But overall, yeah, fun experience. I would definitely be down to do that again with another classic car once I get to that stage again in a more practical manner. But yeah, from the 240Z, as mentioned in the previous video, I actually ended up trading that for a 97 Nissan 240SX, the S14 Koki in white. And that was an interesting situation because, like, you know, I was feeling stressed out at the time with the Datsun because it's a 40 plus year old car. You know, it was having like brake issues and like things after things were popping up because that's the nature of a classic car like that. And my decision to get into a 240 with an SR20, that didn't really help either. So it went from one stressful situation to another. But overall, again, it was a fun experience. I always wanted to have an S14, especially the Koki edition, Koki version, whatever. I got to have one with an SR, which was really cool and interesting. My first turbo car, that was fun. Hearing it spool up, and you know, although it was like super laggy, it definitely needed a tune. It was fun. I don't regret any of these cars, any of these vehicles. They're all fun. They all have their purpose, and they all got me to where I am now. So yeah. So from the 240SX, I actually went back to the FRS. Technically, I got into a 2020 Toyota GT86. Something about it, like I kind of wanted to like try again with the FRS and like have a second chance at it, you know, kind of a thing, because I didn't keep the lease for the FRS, and I was like, oh, I really love that car. When I had it, it was like the only new car I had at the time, and I was like, I want another new car because I was already sick of dealing with like the Miata and the Datsun and then the S14, all of these used cars with their issues. And so I was like, I'm done with it. I want a new car again. So yeah, I actually ended up financing the GT86. I think I only made it with about a year into that car before jumping ship. Mainly, I got rid of the GT86 because of like just personal issues, financial issues. We were like in the middle of moving with my girlfriend, and just like, you know, job situation and stuff like that. It just made sense to kind of like get out of a financed car. Like I think the payments for that were like $600 a month, which, you know, aren't necessarily that bad, but for me it was too much to stomach, I guess. And I think I could have used that money in better ways, is the moral of the story for that. So yeah, I actually ended up selling it to Carvana, which I know they get like a lot of bad raps in the news, or I don't know. There was like some negative press about Carvana a little while ago, but it was like a super easy process for me. I literally went on their website and got a quote for selling the car like in minutes. And this is not an ad, not sponsored, but if you're considering selling your relatively new car without wanting to deal with like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, doing it all by yourself, and like with the hassle of all that stuff, honestly, I would recommend doing Carvana or even like a CarMax situation. You know, it's honestly so simple. It's like, to me, it just felt like that was worth the time. You know, like I would rather do that than to deal with all the other stuff, right? And it was a relatively new car. It was literally only 1 year old at the time, so the value was like still there. And this was like back when like the used car market was crazy. Like you could get a used car for more than the new car, so it was in my favor at the time. So it made sense to sell it, and I actually ended up getting like a couple thousand back afterwards, so I wasn't underwater on it, if like that's what they call it, I guess. So that worked out in my favor, and then I used that money towards the car that I have now, which is a 1999 Miata NB, NB1 in white. All of them are in white except for the Accord and the Aveo and the first Miata. That was a green. So yeah, now I have a 99 Miata NB, and honestly, it's a dream. Funny enough, as I'm recording this, the first real issue popped up on it like a couple of days ago. I have to change out the clutch master and slave cylinders, which is a relatively common thing that happens with Miatas. I actually did the exact same thing on my first Miata that I had, so I'm relatively knowledgeable on how to do it, and there's like plenty of videos on YouTube of how to swap those out, and the parts for that are like super cheap. So the only thing that was really holding me back on doing it was having like right tools and like a floor jack and jack stands. I used to have a floor jack and jack stands, but they got stolen at one of our last apartments, so now I know better. Don't leave your stuff outside. So yeah, I got a new jack and jack stands on the way. Just ordered those yesterday, ordered the parts parts for the clutch and slave cylinder replacements. So clutch, master, and slave cylinder. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so I'll actually probably try to record that as another video. Not so much as a tutorial, because there's plenty of those tutorials on YouTube already. More of just kind of like a vlog, like so you can watch me struggle doing it, see how long it takes me to do it. So yeah, that was a brief rundown on all the cars that I've had, plus motorcycle, to kind of share with you guys my previous car history and kind of get us up to speed, and you know, just almost like closing that chapter on things, and that way I can just focus on what's ahead of me, what I have in front of me right now, which is my Miata. I do have a lot of plans for it. I want to make a separate video specifically going down the list of like wish list mods that I want to do to the Miata, possible driving videos. I live pretty close to Malibu out here in California, so there's a lot of good driving roads out here. Probably will do a lot of canyon driving once I feel that the car can handle it, obviously. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of a bit messy, like the rundown of things. I just didn't want to get too deep into the details because I don't know if you guys are interested in that. And yeah, I want to just keep the momentum on this channel going. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching. As always, if you like it, like it. If you don't. And if you are into it, subscribe. I appreciate it, as always. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. See you later.